That's my Ram Laramie 2014. I've got a good buddy that's got a Duramax Chevrolet, and I've got another buddy that just acquired a Ford Super Duty. We all went out to Camp Petit in northwest Arkansas, I guess you'd call it, or northeast rather, and real nice place. And it's a little 1,000-foot climb before you get to the campsite. Not much, but he was pulling with a gas engine, a Ford, pulling a pretty good sized camper. I think it's about a 29-foot. He was right at his rated max, probably over it with all the extra stuff he's got in it, because people usually don't count all that. But he burned his transmission up bottom line on that last little 1,000-foot, and he took it into a nearby town and didn't really know what the circumstances were going to be. It was either going to be $800 if it was just a certain part, or it was going to be $5,000–6,000 if they had to change the transmission. So he just bit the bullet, and we saw him come back in a brand new Ford Super Duty. He's a Ford man. But it's given me the opportunity to compare all three trucks. Granted, they're not all the same year, but they're all basically the same trucks as they are now. Really, Ram hasn't changed anything. Very, very little. But it was really interesting to do that comparison. And I want to show you some of the things that I noticed about my Ram that I couldn't find on any of the other trucks. I did find some things on the other trucks that, well, let's just say they're interesting. I'll let you be the judge. I'll show them to you, and you tell me what you think. So let's walk around my truck and take a look, and then we'll look at the some of the stuff on the new Super Duty, which by the way has 925 foot-pounds of torque. So he was thrilled with that, and I don't blame him. But we're going to take a look, do a little quick pool boy comparison, and I'll show you what I think anyway. I'm not here to trash anybody's truck or trash any brand. I think they're all great. Of course, I am a Ram aficionado, always have been. I love the long stroke, high torque Cummins. Cummins has been making engines for a very long time, and they've got it down to a science. And you know, Chevrolet has certainly gone through their growing pains. Ask me about the 5.7 Oldsmobile diesel I once owned, and I think Chevrolet finally decided they don't know how to make a diesel, and finally resorted to the Zuzu engine in their Duramaxes, which is a really fine engine. Ford, they started out with a very good engine, the Navistar International, whatever you want to call it. I think it was International first. That engine had been around in combines and whatnot for years, and then I think they became Navistar, the company name, and then Ford decided to strike out on their own and build their own diesel, and that's where they kind of got in trouble like General Motors did. But it looks like they've got it down, and Ford has been building diesels for quite a while. Not the Power Stroke. They have now, and the Power Stroke's a good engine, and they've got it down. That 6.7 looks like a good engine. I think we all know about the 6.0. There was a lot of issues with that. But anyway, let's take a look around my truck, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the things that I thought were different, and some of it's unusual. So let's just take a look. I don't know if you've seen the new auto step on the Chevys. I know the Denali's got them. I don't know if the other ones have it. But it's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen, or I guess I don't know what you'd want to call it. It's called an auto step, and I'm going to show it to you right here in a little photo clip. The weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. Had to be designed by Rube Goldberg. It looks like a lot of trouble just to get a running board out, and it also pops out when you open the door. So what happens if it doesn't come out and you fall out of your truck? But it does exactly what our truck does, but you gotta have a bunch of motors and electronics and all kind of things that can fail to do exactly what's on our truck. That's just standard, bolted on, stronger than hell. And I'll show you. Let me just take a walk over here, and you can see when I step on my running board. Okay, so this is the next thing I love about the new Rams, is the coil spring. You're not going to find that on either the Duramax or the Ford. And what a difference in ride it makes. It's a progressive coil spring, and you sacrifice nothing. You gain the ride. By the way, look at the beefiness of that frame on this truck. But that's for another day. But that coil right there, it's a progressive coil spring. So the more you load it, the less it sags. On my hitch there, when I load my travel trailer, I've got an 860 pound tongue weight, and it drops that hitch height 1.5 inches. And that's without any weight distribution, anything, just hanging the tongue weight on it. There it is right there. That's 860 pounds with 2 full butane tanks, 2 6-volt Golf batteries, which I put that setup in myself. Got a nice little video on it if you want to see it. But it really gives you a lot of boondocking time if you're into that sort of thing. Notice coming back from Petit Jean, I picked up some road debris or something. Tore part of my fairing off. I've got that ordered. Should be in a couple of days. But yeah, I've measured it. It drops that hitch 1.5 inches when you hang 860 pounds on the back. And you'd say, man, that must be a stiff ride. But it's not, because of those progressive coil springs. And of course, you know, Ram they thought of so much, like this step right here. You know, to me, this is perfect. I don't need all the electronics and the cool swing out and swing in and all that. This is perfect. It's less to fail. KISS method, right? Keep it simple. Here's another thing that I really like about my truck. The mirrors. They're simple. Again, the KISS method. I'm not into all the electronics and all that. It's real cool, but I don't need my key to be able to swing my windows in and out. And believe me, this has paid off many times. I have backed into my garage. I can't tell you how many times I've hit that damn thing. Old man syndrome, you know. And it just flips back and no harm done. I don't know what it'd be like if that was, you know, electrically operated. Car wash, same thing. Car wash flips those things every which way. But when I come out, I just straighten them out and I'm gone. Here's another one of those gee whiz gizmos. You get out of your truck and you forget to close the mirrors, which I don't close them anyway, but I don't know, this seems like one of those great salesman type items. This is an option on the Super Duty. Personally, I don't want all that stuff rattling around in my tailgate, but it may have some application. Here's another thing I love about my truck, and I don't think you'll find this on any other truck. And it's such a great place to put things out of the way that's not obvious. I even put a laptop in here the other day. Keep spare filters in there or whatever. Got my little code reader in there. There's one on each side. Love it. Not to mention the way these seats got a little storage underneath here. Got some extra stuff there. And of course the way the seat folds down. Most of you know how that works. That's so handy. And does it on both sides. So when I go camping, they're down and they're loaded up with gear. And makes it so handy. Display on the Chevys or the Fords that compare with the panel of the Ram. This particular screen here is my favorite. I love it. It's got so many things, so much information on one screen. To be able to see these same parameters on a either Duramax or a Ford, you have to cycle through different things, similar to doing this, which you can do on this too if you want to just cycle through and look at your various things. But one of the things that I don't understand why Ford, what they do is they put their idle time and their driving time, and then they show transmission temperature, oil temperature. So at least on the Ford you can do some customization, but it's limited. You can only change that fourth gauge that says turbo. Now why they have engine hours with oil temperature and idling time, I don't know. I don't understand that. I don't understand the logic of that. But this is the screen view, and what you can see as you cycle through the Ford Super Duty screen. With this screen right here, which is where I stay all the time, 99.9% of the time when I'm towing. I mean, look at the information on this thing. You've got coolant temperature, you've got transmission temperature, you've got oil temperature, you've got oil pressure, you've got your average mile per gallon, you've got range, as far as how much fuel you got left. You've got your odometer, you've got your DEF, you've got just about everything. You got it's just loaded with information. Plus you've got 2 gauges up at the top, which are kind of redundant. You've got your oil pressure, and then you've got your coolant temperature, and you've got that in digital form at the bottom. But and to Ford and Chevy's credit, you can customize their digital display and put some of that stuff at the top, but you can't put your transmission temperature and you can't put your oil temperature, and those are 2 of the most important things to me when I'm towing. Those 2 things tell me I either need to back off or I got more room to run. So, you know, that's very important. Of course, coolant temperature is important too. But this screen right here by itself almost makes the whole darn truck worth buying for me. Okay, the Infotainment Center. I know there's a lot of people that don't like the GPSs. They like to use Google Maps and all that, and Google Maps is great. But if you want to compare GPSs between the 3 trucks, this one is so superior. It's a Garmin-based GPS, and this whole entertainment system here is so easy to navigate, because as you punch these buttons, you see what you're getting. If you'll notice on the others, at least on the Ford, you just get a menu that has these things, and then you got to pick one. You know, you go to nav, you got your nav, but you still have your selections down here. Radio, media, other things, driver, control, climate, phone, which is really nice. And there's you know, when you get in, you pair your Bluetooth, assuming you're Bluetooth paired, picks up your phone right off the bat. And so that's just a few of the things that I really like about this Ram. It's not everything by any means. It's 2 or 3 of the very significant things to me, and it's one of the reasons I really fell for this truck. The other thing is the back seat controls, which doesn't really matter to me, but it does for people sitting back there. You've got full air, heat, everything on the back seat. This is a Laramie. You know, of course, I really like the brake control, but they all have it, and it works well. I like the double glove compartment. That's really nice. You've got 2 different glove compartments here. You got one here, and you got another one down here. And the same thing with what underneath here in this console. You've got 2 different compartments. One is like a little flat area. You can stick a laptop in there if you wanted to, or whatever you got. Just anything. Put your gun in there, whatever. But there's just one thing after another. Every time I look at other trucks, newer trucks even, and it's 2014, although this is very, very similar to the 17 and 18s, I just find things about my Ram that, in my opinion, are superior. I mean, look at the stitching. You know, look at the quality here on the dash and the stitching. That is just first rate. And I've got about a 300-pound friend. Actually, he's more than that. And he has tested that driver's seat, or that passenger seat, to the max. And it's held up really fine. So, those are some of the things that I just thought I'd share with you. You know, sometimes we get kind of complacent about our vehicles and we think, well, you know, I wish I had this and I wish I had that. But this truck was very well thought out from the beginning, and I think that's why Ram hadn't changed it in several years, because it's, in my mind, it's just about perfect. There's only one thing that I would change, if I could change, and that's the god darn oil filter location. That is just not very good. Ram engineers and Cummins engineers didn't seem to get together very well on that. Oh, I'm sure they knew. Cummins probably said, here it is, take it or leave it, and Ram said, well, we'll do something stupid like cut a hole in the fender or make you take your entire turbo intake off to change the oil filter. But you know, if you've seen some of my oil change videos, you'll know that it's not that bad. It's worth it, because you got a Cummins, you got the best, no doubt about it. You get the best fuel mileage. That I can guarantee you. I've compared them all. I've run alongside of all of them, and your fuel mileage is superior because of that 342 rear end. And then when you're ready to tow, you drop it into that badass 5th gear. And if you're an Assen fan, Assen on the 3500s, that's a great transmission too, from what I hear. I've never had one. I have no complaints with this 68 RFE, I think it's called. I have no complaints with that. But I'm not one to dog my transmission. I'm very easy on my truck. I like to lock into one gear and stay in that gear when I'm towing. I don't let it downshift and hunt back and forth, even though it probably won't hurt it, but I don't do it. That's my quick little overview of my truck. Some of the significant things that I like about it. And you know, the other thing, of course, is I like the push button start. I like the fact that I don't have to pull my key out of my pocket to get in my truck. I just touch the doorknob, the door handle, just touch the door handle and it unlocks it. I like the fact that the tailgate locks and unlocks along with everything else. That's really nice. One guy I was talking to in a campsite in Sarasota, Florida, said they were stealing tailgates off of some of these trucks, and those things were upwards of $3,000 a piece for a tailgate, so God forbid. So it is nice that it locks. It may not stop them from stealing it, but it won't hurt. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on these few little things. Make you appreciate your truck a little more when you get alongside of one of those other ones. Until next time, adios.